I know a lot of people are like, that's excessive, and let me tell you why it's not.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, presented by CinemaSins.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, your weekly look at all things CinemaSins, TV sins, and commercial sins. I'm your host, Aaron, but not that Aaron, of course, and this week I'm joined by CinemaSins staff member, Daniel.
Hello, everyone.
Daniel, it's good to see you again. Having you on relatively last minute. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no worries. I try to get in here whenever I can.
I guess, spoiler alert, Daniel's not on any of the videos this week. But
not a single one. I have no information for you whatsoever. So
that's not entirely true. You're just kind of a proxy or like a surrogate of other people's thoughts. But it's also good because you can still like help give insight to things. You know, you're still very valuable. It's just I don't know that BTS has ever had somebody that's not worked on the video before, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and it was fun to watch them, watch the videos and be kind of completely on the outside like this week.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. I mean, when you have people on BTS, that doesn't happen too often. So it's sort of I get to just kind of be a fan as well, to just have that perspective and just be like looking for or just listening to it and laughing along. Like that's great, I think.
That's got to be interesting, right? Like that thing, like when you watch somebody else do your job and you just get a kind of, I mean, when your job is entertainment, you know, like, like it's got to feel like when Spielberg goes to see a Nolan movie, or, you know, when Tarantino goes to see a John Woo movie or something, you know?
Absolutely.
That's an interesting way to think of things. Yeah. So it's nice, you know,
so like you don't have to be in the kitchen. It's like someone cooking for you, right?
Oh, that's the perfect example. When you're a professional chef and you get to watch it, especially because like different techniques and different, you know, oh, I normally make this way, but they made it that way. Huh. Now I'm hungry. Well, we have a lot to cover, so I think let's just get right into the videos this week. Let's dive into the SinSide Scoop.
What's he building in there?
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
This is a true story.
We have Monday's video we'll start off with is Rick and Morty 6x5 Final DeSmithation. This is a Jonathan and Danae script. This is a weird episode.
Yes.
And I still haven't seen the episode, but it was one of those things where as a fan, as watching the video, I was almost like, I'm really intrigued by the episode, but I'm almost more intrigued by only seeing the snippets here and there going out. Like,
yeah.
So fortune cookies have actual realness to them now, but it's because they're alien poop. Like, so there's a factory there of somebody harnessing alien poop and willing things to be true. And he sends out a message that says that Jerry's going to have sex with his mom in order to get him. It's almost one of those, like, let's talk about the villain's plan. Like, giving him an Oedipus prophecy, I guess, is what leads him to freeing this captor. It's, man, I can only imagine the people that haven't seen this episode and haven't seen this Sins video and are now hearing me trying to explain what this episode is.
Like, this one is very unique for me because I've seen all of the other episodes this season of Rick and Morty, but I did not see this one. And I was so caught off guard, like so early on in the Sins video, like when it started and like, yeah, where the show story went, like I was not prepared. I was not prepared for that. So I mean, but when I go back, I want to watch like the other episode, watch the actual episode this week sometime.
Mm-hmm.
But like it was just like hearing these things and then just hearing what the writers had to comment on them. It was a very surreal sort of video.
So what did some of the writers have to say?
Let's see what Jonathan, he said, I love how Danae noticed those slip-on shoes and got an entire sin written about them. Danae always notices little details that I seem to miss when I'm working on a script. And I'm grateful, especially when you're sitting something as intentionally silly as Rick and Morty. It helps if we can up our silly game. Also, Danae clearly has an issue with animated buttons on shirts. This goes back to sinning Family Guy. I don't know specifically what episode that's referring to, but I do love it when we see these sort of recurring sins where like that thing annoys me and I have not let that go. And it's like not only episodes later, but like this is a completely different series. Many other sins videos have come and gone, but we are still upset about these buttons on this shirt. So that is fun. And I did enjoy that sin when it came up as well. And even the slip-on shoes one that he's referring to, it was like just like frame by frame, like you realize there's this little like foot bar there that the animators did not have throughout the entire scene. And like
it was almost like when you're playing a video game and like there's clearly something that's meant to be there, but like the processing is just taking up too much, and like or the game release is broken because EA made it or something. And so it's just one of those like where something is supposed to be there and then it's just not, and then so it just kind of like flickers back and forth. Like gave me Cyberpunk 2077 vibes.
Jonathan also mentioned that the Sherlock Holmes portion of the intro during the opening credits, I wrote with Jonathan on, I think it was episode 1 of season 6, and we sent it in that one, and then he sent it again because it is such a tantalizing like Rick and Morty episode to have them do like a Sherlock and Watson thing, and it's like they teased it out there and it's like, now I want it. And so it's like, are they going to do it this season, or is it just one of those like throwaway clips that they throw in the opening credits sometimes?
On one hand, I'm almost like, I want all of these Rick and Morty things, but at the other time, I'm like, but the Rick and Morty original content is the stuff that really is the best. Like this episode, right? Yeah, it's a really fun Sins video to watch. There was the two that I wrote down was fortune cookies are alien poop. Ladies and gentlemen, I would buy that on a shirt, and that is for sure a sin. Which leads me to my rhetorical question. When are we going to get fortune cookies or aliens poop on a CinemaSins t-shirt? And the answer is exactly what Aaron told me last week. Whenever it appears in the store.
Yes.
And then the other one I wrote down was just Rick makes a reference to Margaret Howe fucking a dolphin. And it's just one of those where you write like Aaron as the narrator has to react to something kind of in real time. And as previously stated on this podcast, Aaron is very good at walking you through his process via speech. So he's really good at like there's the insert of sound of like a keyboard typing, and then there's like a dolphin sound, and you can hear him throughout giving his reactions to what he's seeing, and it's just like, oh, and why are there pictures? It's great.
Yeah, he does a really good job with that. I have to give him a lot of props with all that stuff. Yeah.
I had a very similar reaction to the commercial sins video this week. Which we'll get there.
Again, wow, that was a thing. Yeah.
That's really all I had for the video. Is there other things you wanted to highlight?
Let's see. Of the sins I liked, there was, I think it was Rick says, "Okay, I'm just as likely to shit a balloon as I am to become a dolphin," and it's just things overheard at the D&D table while reviewing the chaos table calculations somehow make their way into the script. And yeah, I just love those hypotheticals, and it's like,
yeah.
I've never been at a D&D table where anyone has said that, but now I wish I was. That's what hypotheticals, because you're like, oh, yeah, this is a great comment right there.
D&D is one of those things that I definitely don't have the time for, but I want to hear of like the really ridiculous situations that people are in. Give me the highlights reel. Like, give me how like when they have an entire like game of football and they condense it down into like the 6 minutes of actual football that's played. Like, give me that. You know,
you just want the highlight reel.
Yeah, I just want the highlight reel, but not of the like, oh, there was a really big power move. Like, give me the stupid. You know,
the low light reel.
The low light reel. Well, I think that should take us into Tuesday's video then. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is Chris and Ian writing on this. Boy, is this movie infuriating, but also I've never liked a movie that infuriated me this much. Have you seen this one?
Yes, I have.
How do you consider your relationship to the MCU?
I would say I'm not a hater. I would say casual fan. Like, I wasn't that invested in the comic books. In the Marvel comic books, like I was a casual fan of that. So I think my most of my experience is probably with the Spider-Man, the animated TV show,
Mm-hmm.
and then like the X-Men show that was like on Saturday morning cartoons. Like that was sort of as much of that world as I kind of consumed when I was younger. And as the movies have gone, like yeah, I saw like the first Iron Man in the theater, and I was like, yeah, this is a really fun movie, and I was on board with that. So as they've like come out, I mean, I watch them. I don't get too heated when I don't like them, but I do feel a certain amount of disappointment with a lot of the films as they come out. I can get into this movie if you want. This movie did disappoint me.
Yeah. So, all right. So I was a huge fanboy all the way up until I think WandaVision would be the point that I would say like my fandom died off after that. Not because WandaVision, because I think WandaVision is excellent, but because everything after that has been pretty mediocre, except for I really like the Hawkeye show. I thought that one was really good. And Spider-Man No Way Home is not perfect, but it's really good. Because I love WandaVision so much, this movie infuriated me. I think I like the movie more than most people, but it is far from a home run. You said this movie really disappointed you. What are some of the reasons for
Well,
that?
I mean, yes, really disappointed might be strong, but it did disappoint me. I don't think that his character has found its footing as to what or who Doctor Strange is in this universe. Or his character and like his character storyline has very much been like a plot device and not ever really landed as like they've done with like Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, and Spider-Man, and like they don't know how to differentiate that character properly in a way that sort of defined him. And it feels a bit like that even his own movie treats him a bit as I'm not gonna say like a secondary character, but like I feel like he needs to be cooler in this movie than he is.
That's a really good way to phrase it. Yeah. I think the thing that I think about when I think of you're talking about Doctor Strange's progression in the MCU is
Yeah.
more than any other character, we have to assume so much of his growth and development off screen. Because
Yes.
to get from his very origins as a complete novice from Doctor Strange to where he is in Infinity War is a huge leap. And then to get from Endgame to this, even, I mean, there's so much knowledge to obtain from in the sorcery world, and not only that, but he is like second in command to Wong. We have to assume so much about his progression. So
Yeah.
I mentioned that this movie really disappointed me because I loved WandaVision so much, and it just seems like this movie is so uninterested in what WandaVision has to say and do, because WandaVision was this really interesting character development piece, character study piece on really grief, specifically in Wanda's life. And I thought it had a lot of meaningful things to say, and it was really emotional and engaging and thrilling and intellectual, probably minus the finale, which is just kind of a big CG fight. But as Deadpool puts it, but it wound up being something that I thought was remarkably fresh for the MCU. By the end of it, I feel like we had reached a resolution to where now I was like, okay, Wanda's the Scarlet Witch now, and she can do her thing now. But then it's just like they revert all of her getting over her grief immediately in the beginning of Multiverse of Madness by saying she's trying to kill this teenage girl because she can steal kids from another universe. It's like that's not the Wanda I just spent time with in WandaVision. Like,
Yeah.
and Ian, who wrote on this movie, on this Sins video, seems to have the same thoughts. He says, "I often complain that Marvel doesn't allow their directors to put enough of their own personality into their movies, but I will no longer complain about this. This movie is super Sam Raimi, and some people will love it for exactly that reason, which is cool. But for me, it was just all on the surface, creepy set pieces, gore, demon capes, and all cool to look at. But this story pissed me off. It completely screws WandaVision. It makes Wanda the character irredeemable and has more logical fallacies than a flat Earth convention held in orbit."
Was that not in the video? Because that should have been.
No, that's just in the email, which is great. And that's like, here's the other thing for me too, is I think Sam Raimi was a really interesting choice to go with. And I was so bittersweet when they announced him because I adore Scott Derrickson and his work. Talked about it a couple weeks ago on the Black Phone. And I really like what he did with the first Doctor Strange. And I was really excited to see him progress that and go further. But then it was announced he was leaving, and I'm like, oh, but then they announced Sam Raimi, and it's like, but how can you be mad? Like, he's the one person they could pick that I would still be excited. So Ian also goes on to say, for more thoughts and Sin-specific stuff, you can join the Sin Club on Patreon, where Ian, Chris, and Aaron Dicer did a 60-minute Sinmentary on this video. So
that's a lot of fun. I think if anyone wanting more behind the scenes into the thought of the writers on this one should definitely check that one out. I have one more thought that I want to get out, because this is my gripe on this, and I want to get it out into this universe. Never mind the multiverse. And it is basically the title of this movie is what I think for me did it in. Is it's called The Multiverse of Madness, and in terms of like titles and words, I think that title is a great title, but I think it also creates a scope and like expectation for me that was not met. There was multiverse play in this movie, but not necessarily something that like no one else is doing at this point. So a Multiverse of Madness is a much bigger film than this felt like to me. Like I want to see many universes, and I want to see things go off the rails. I don't want to see them splash through several multiverses in one scene. Like, you can show me a lot of all the crazy sorcery and stuff. Yeah, that's it. But like, none of that is a Multiverse of Madness. That's one universe of craziness, and then a quick glimpse at the multiverse. And that is my main gripe with the movie.
You're right. It was very mild for being called Multiverse of Madness.
Do you want me to talk about what Chris sent me? Chris's notes?
Yeah, let's do that.
He said that I went into this movie liking my first viewing of it, and then coming out of the Sins process only liking parts of the movie. He also says Ian went in disliking / hating it and continued hating it. So, yeah, he said the biggest issue is it took the Disney Plus series WandaVision and basically killed all the character growth from the show to make Wanda the villain. They picked up on that a bunch in the video, but one of his biggest issues with the plot of the movie is how it's trying to make you think there's some other big bad out there while it stalls to reveal Wanda is the true villain. Her method is to possess demons from other universes to track down America, and it leads to a lot of questions as to how Wanda can possess demons in other universes but can't simply travel to them on her own. And the movie's excuse for not revealing Wanda sooner is because she was showing mercy, which is never explained whatsoever. Chris's favorite bits, Ian's take on what it's like to be shown all the different actors playing familiar heroes only to see them die horribly. He said, I also love the fact that Ian wrote a hypothetical sin about Marvel and Sam Raimi having a conflict about how much Raimi was going into the movie when Strange calls on the demons on the mountaintop so he can fly. And then Chris wrote a sin that followed that, wrote an immediate sin removal about Strange using all those demons as bat wings right after that observation. So he liked the interplay of the sinning and then the unsinning.
Yeah.
For the same thing.
Into the Sins video, there's a sin late in the movie that says, I'm adding 100 sins for all the way this movie wants to play in a multiverse without being limited by what that actually means. I thought that was perfectly encapsulating kind of a lot of what we've been talking about. The premise of the movie alone speaks open-mindedness, but this movie is so narrow-sided that it actually like limits what it's saying.
The reflections?
Yes.
The lead-in on the sin is reflections. She's using the reflections. And then the sin is, she's what? She's fucking what? What does that even mean? So because you trapped her in a hall of mirrors, she's able to things? And but that just, I mean, it makes you laugh. Yeah, it just highlights the fact that we don't understand how anything works. And it doesn't seem like the characters understand how anything works.
Right. Imagination. Yeah. How does it work? Which is also a sin that I wrote.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I guess the day after tomorrow forgot to take the morning after pill and it had a conception with inception, which was just that was just based on the visuals on screen of, I forget which multiverse that was in, but it was just there was like this sort of apocalyptic winterscape thing going on, and and then I had the last one I had here was, now they all throw rocks at Wong one by one instead of throwing multiple rocks. And where the fuck is the Scarlet Witch? She's at home washing her tights. Which the whole washing the tights thing was from as Jack Nicholson as the Joker, and I just love the way Jeremy nailed the delivery on that. Just made me crack up hilariously.
I remember asking about that. I think the first episode, because I was like, "What? That's a reference. I don't get it. What is it?" One of the other sins I point out, and it's another really stupid thing that this movie does, because in theory it should be a really cool Easter egg, but they label our MCU Earth 616, which in the comics, Earth 616 is the canon world. So like the canon, like modern mainstream world. And the MCU does not follow the comics entirely. Like they definitely do some things, but for example, like there's no run where the Mandarin is, a fake person, a personification, an actor. They don't ever do stuff like that. Or like Civil War is a lot more complicated over different issues, and there's tons of differences. There's tons of characters that haven't been introduced for pivotal story arcs, and may not for upcoming future pivotal story arcs. So what a really great opportunity for you to just label this Earth as any other Earth. But what are they going to do? Call it 616. And it's a fun Easter egg, but it's a stupid Easter egg.
Yeah, especially since how well you think it could serve like their broader interests to not use that. Like to just like give the MCU so much more room to breathe. Yeah, it was weird.
The only other sin that I wrote down was so I wrote using the Christmas toys as a metaphor for the Illuminati scene, and it's when they're revealing everybody, and the narrator's just like, I can still hear the cheers in the theater, and I think this will be remembered as like the worst Christmas ever. Imagine you getting every single present on your list, even the limited edition ones and the ones that no one else liked, or the ones that were murdered by Famke Jensen and resurrected by Bryan Singer. All of them you get to play with for a while. But the next day, your parents hide all the presents in the basement and don't tell you that you're not able to play with when you're next able to play with them.
Yeah.
And it's just like one of those, like, look, I think it's a fun touch. I don't think they're going to cast John Krasinski as Reed Richards in Fantastic Four. Nor do I really think I want that anymore. Maybe 10 years ago. But it's just one of those really fun things. What a perfect metaphor. It's just like you opening presents on Christmas Day and your parents take them away the next morning.
Yoink.
And I wrote down the Ghost of Christmas Multiverse because that slayed me. That'll take us to Wednesday's video then. House of the Dragon, episode 5, finally. This is Ian and Mystery Writer writing.
Yeah, there's a new writer on this one. That's kind of all I can say.
Just Mystery Writer, that's it. We're leaving it at that. I can confirm one thing for you. I am not Mystery Writer. So this isn't like a clever coy or anything. Mystery Writer and Ian on the script. Ian starts off by saying, sigh. Kristen loves Rhaenyra. Kristen hates Rhaenyra. Bye-bye, Otto. One of the few people holding my attention. Wedding insults, wedding incest, wedding bloodbath. Episode ends on a pretty intense cliffhanger, but then the damn 10-year time jump undermines everything. Are you keeping up with the show at all?
Yeah, I'm all the way. I've seen all the episodes.
Was it out of choice or out of work related?
It was choice. I was genuinely interested in the storyline. I personally feel like there are some things that I really liked about the series, and I think that watching all the episodes, I kind of get the story that they wanted to tell, and I mean the story that they did tell, but I don't entirely agree with how they told it. I think there was ways to do it better and to do it more effectively. Yeah, I'd say that's how I overall feel about the season.
But yeah, the end of this episode is where we get the 10-year time jump into the future, and I am eagerly anticipating the opening of episode 6's Sins video, because it's just going to be the narrator barking on about it. I'm sure. It's so jarring, and I don't need to say anymore. I've harped on it enough as we've gone through the season.
I have like one thing that I think almost is what I would consider a simple change in terms of the writing that would have made it a lot better is if each episode felt more complete on its own and it didn't rely upon the story continuing.
Let's see. Some of the sins I had down was I just like this one because the first half of it is riding off into the rain with your hood down. You have a hood, Otto. But the punchline for this one is no wonder you're not the Hand anymore. It's just like, if you're already making this one stupid decision, no wonder we're gonna put you not that you be in charge of a country anymore or a nation, whatever.
Like, how can we trust you with anything?
And then food is a metaphor for sexuality cliche, which is needlessly confusing my stomach boner. My favorite sin. I'm gonna give the cake for sin of the week to this one. Lamenting the peaceful times when you're living and ruling through because you want people to sing a cool song about when you're not living or ruling.
Yeah.
What a stupid thing. Oh, you are a peaceful king. You are king in a violent nation in a peaceful time, and you've managed to keep the peace. And you're sad that people won't sing songs about you in the peace. What a stupid thing. Sin of the week right there. That's the one. not RSVPing the pre-wedding wedding dinner, and call me woke, but I'm gonna sin the incest and murder.
Yeah,
amazing.
Controversial standpoint on that one.
I don't know how many of them were written by mystery writer, but this is a really good video.
Yes, absolutely.
What are some of the ones that you had written down?
Okay, so this is from like the end at the dinner. I think all of mine might be from there. But the sin goes, "Oh, fuck you, and the poorly paced dragon you lacklusterly flew in on. I will be so mad if the show is telling us that Joffrey has figured out Cole is Rhaenyra's love interest from this look alone. Not a fucking chance. That's the least believable thing the universe has expected me to swallow, and that's including zombies, witches, and the fact that season 8 was designed to be watched in a theater."
Yep.
Yeah. I love that it eventually got to that season 8 dig, and it was unexpected. I thought that was fun.
Ian's favorite sin from the video is Viserys is like, "I think I would do well in battle," and then the narrator just says, "Sure," says the man currently dying from a case of sitting in a chair. And I have a post-credit or a behind-the-scenes fact also coming from Ian. He says, the very first back-to-back sin I nearly cut because I was almost worried it was too trolly. This was explaining that the show tries to women first and that Sir Gerald was being patronizing, followed immediately by the narrator narrate-splaining. That's a new vocabulary for the team. Narrate-splaining that the creatures hanging from her horse were grouse and not the deer she'd been planning on. Danae okayed it, so let's blame her if there's outrage. Other stuff from the video?
Oh, again, just that I would say, like, I love the outtakes. That's honestly one of my favorite parts of the videos. There was a Monty Python one where I forget, Damon's wife was laying on the ground. And she's just like, "I'm not dead."
So good.
It's one of those, I felt so bad laughing, like, based on the situation, but just like the like laying that overdub on that was hilarious. And then there's some other great ones. There's from Toy Story, the TV show Schitt's Creek, Blackadder, which I've never seen, but I've heard some things about. So that's definitely something that I want to take a watch sometime. So it's all good stuff there.
Yeah, great video put together by the team. Good job, mystery writer. Moving forward, this will take us to Thursday's video. The Dog is the film. Daniel, this one's going to take the cake for me. It's a Jeremy and Ian script, by the way. It's going to take the cake for Sin's video of the week for me. I was grinning and chuckling and smiling the whole 20 minutes. It was great. I haven't seen the movie, though, and we were talking a little bit about it earlier. You haven't seen it, correct?
No, I have not. I was vaguely aware of its existence. I will say I saw a movie poster for it, but that's about all I had known. So to me, from watching the Sids video, it seems like a very different movie. But the funny thing is, like, this like the sins we wrote on and everything made me more interested in actually watching the movie, because like it just seems like the like some of the choices and like where the story starts and where it goes just seem just unexpected. So
Yeah.
it piqued my curiosity. So I'm going to I put the movie on my list because of the Sins video. And next time I'm on, I might be like, that was the best movie I've ever seen in my life.
I remember this movie came out like in February, I think. And I remember thinking it looks kind of charming, and I'm really interested in seeing it because the trailer like presented it as if it was going to be this like heartfelt with some good comedic elements in it cross-country road trip of essentially a version of Logan, right? Because Logan is this bitter, gruff old man that has to take this young wild card on a road trip, and they're going to wind up bonding along the way. Like, and it seems like, oh, it's for a pretty noble purpose, right? So it's just like, all right, cool, I'm in. And it's also co-directed by Channing Tatum, and I was like, sure, why not? Seeing the video made me see that it looks like the movie that was marketed was more like a slightly more comedic, something like Logan, and it almost seems like we got a slightly more dramatic Euro trip, like.
Slightly more dramatic Euro trip.
Because like there's all these sins that are pointing out like the one that really like either Jeremy or Ian or both of them just decided that this Channing Tatum character is the most irredeemable guy, and it really clicked for me because there's the moment where he comes to base and they're like, this ID is expired, and he's a total dick to the gate guard, and it's just like he's doing his job. Like the narrator says he's doing his job, but also like he's doing his job, which is national security for an army base. Like, like he's not doing his job, whatever the most meaningless job you can think of is.
And the character, I mean, like, Shane Tatum's character, like, he seems like he should be someone that respects the job that person's trying to do. You don't understand exactly why he's being a dick, other than this is seen as to show us that he's a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I gathered from that.
I promise I didn't read Ian's notes before speaking here, so I'm looking at him now. His first note is sigh. So we got one sigh for House of the Dragon and 2 for dog. His next note, and I'm reading this literally: do I think this movie has an important message to share about how we treat our veterans? Yes, I do. Do I think it's best served by a Eurotrip style jaunt where Channing Tatum is an absolute dog abusing, womanizing, blind impersonating Chad? No, I do not. No, I do fucking not. We both compared this movie to Eurotrip. Oh, that's amazing. And also the fact that he called him a Chad in this movie. For me, it just felt like the movie thought it could get away with anything because in the end, everything turns out great. It's just so lazy and just not funny. Overall, I think it's safe to say this will not be making my 500 films of the year. And Ian quoted 2 sins that I think, again, part of the reason why this was my favorite sins video of the week. I will get to them in a little bit, but what are some things that you wanted to start with?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have so much to say with this one.
Okay.
But Jeremy did send in some notes. So let's see what he has to say. Let's see. So Dog tries to be Middle East war veteran with PTSD, as well as being man bonds with difficult dog, as well as comedy about a man and a dog and a road trip. It's all over the place tonally. There's also a lot of ignorance and disrespect to wounded veterans, service animals, and mental health. It says at one point, Tatum's character pretends to be blind, acting like the military dog is a seeing eye dog so he can get comped the best suite in the hotel. But in the same scene, the dog sees a dude in Middle Eastern wear and gets triggered, attacking the guy. So it gets all serious and violent, but then Tatum officially excuses the dog's behavior and says the dog isn't racist or whatever. So
fair.
He goes on to say, so no one who truly respects veterans or service dogs was involved in making this movie. The main character drugs the dog to go chase women, and then he cages the dog to go to a shooting range. He says, even if the viewer is not offended by the bad representation, I think the tonal shifting of this film makes it super cinnable. movie also gives the finger to basic geography and good travel planning.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, he says, "But I probably said enough." Yeah, that seems to be what they captured in the video as well. There's
Yeah.
a lot of that.
Yeah. The two sins that Ian pointed out that I had written down, brilliant. Ian says, my favorite sin by far was also my most twisted. Channing Tatum is chopping wood, and then the narrator says, we now bring you to 30 straight seconds of Channing Tatum chopping wood. My buddy said this movie would have me reaching for tissues, but I didn't think it would be quite so soon.
Yeah. It's a lot of depth on that one. If anyone out there doesn't get it, ask your friends to explain it for you.
And then literally the next sin I have written down, Ian says, also stuffing pills in your wiener in the hope that it will put your bitch to sleep. My goodness, the things we write that could be taken entirely out of context.
I think even in context, that's it's aggressive.
There's also a really great sin later about how like the dog has like favorite episodes of Grey's Anatomy, and then the narrator starts sinning the Grey's Anatomy episode.
Yeah.
But then the narrator is also like, I can't believe I'm more invested in this episode of Grey's Anatomy than I am the movie that this episode of Grey's Anatomy is in.
I love that. It's like some inception of sinning. That's like we're TV sinning and cinema sinning at the same time on that.
Uh-huh.
That's great.
The other two I had written down were sure he hates his job, but I would still question what type of cucumbers and peppers this discount Subway is using if they look even remotely similar enough to be confused with one another. Yeah. Don't eat at that sandwich shop. And if this fucking adorable ass dog dies in this movie, I am taking its registration number of 77,309,206 and adding that many sins to the final tally. Don't fuck with me, movie. I'm almost sad that we didn't get to see that, because I would love to see this encounter reach 18 million. That would be hilarious to me. Anything else you wanted to point from this video?
I forget what character. I think the character's name is Jones or something. It says to our protagonist, get home safe. That's an order. Then when the character's inebriated, but he says, are you really gonna give that order and then drive away? I feel like everybody failed everybody here. And I just thought that was funny, because he's like, you get home safe, but I'm not going to do anything about helping you do that. That's like, what was the point of even telling him that? Like, oh man, like this was wild. Like, yeah, once again, our protagonist, he says about the dog in the film, says, how about I disappear her ass? You make the call and we both go on with our lives. And the sin is, this is a fucking dickhead suggestion that I honestly can't believe Briggs is making. This dog has been through just as much as any human ranger and wasn't even given a choice in the matter, and he wants to disappear her ass as a thank you for her service. Are we rooting for this guy? And yeah, that's a good question. Don't know why they wanted to make him that reprehensible that early, but so be it. And then the sin is he's clearing his chakra with the sex healers so he can have a threesome with them. And now this movie is Road Trip or some shit. Nearly 1/3 in, and it's all over the top big swings at bad comedy. And the Road Trip, we referenced Euro Trip. Yeah, definitely was playing with those sort of that genre, I guess.
I have fond memories of both of those movies, but I'm not sure I would like them if I watched them today.
and they definitely don't fit in the context of this film.
Right. They shouldn't be able to be compared to this film about a disabled veteran taking a PTSD-stricken dog cross-country to attend his past handler's funeral. Like, should not be able to compare that to teenage boy flies to Europe to get laid.
No, you should not. The final sin I had was the lead-in is, it's war. It's not all unicorns and rainbow vaginas out there. The sin is, I don't even think the movie knows what the fuck that means.
That'll take us to Friday's video. Commercial sins Floam, the thing that you totally forgot existed, and then it shows up again and you're like, whoa. I never owned Floam, but I do remember seeing these ads. Did you have a similar experience?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we know this. Like, I vaguely remember that this product existed because of this commercial. I don't know anyone that had Floam,
No, me neither.
or if they sold any units whatsoever. But I do remember this cartoon, or not this commercial showing up probably while I was watching cartoons or something. The commercial did not age well, I'll tell you that. It doesn't make Floam look really that much fun at all. I don't think.
No, but then I was wondering, like, oh shoot, like, did they just open the door for infomercials? Are we gonna get ShamWow soon? And now I'm just hoping for ShamWow soon. So put that in your suggestion box. Um,
It's banked, written down, noted. We'll,
uh,
we'll submit it to the committee for review.
The one I mostly wanted to notice was there was a really great Sinister reference in here. I know I mentioned my love for Scott Derrickson earlier in this podcast, and I think Sinister is one of the best horror films released in the last while. I really love Sinister. I just wrote, I get the Sinister reference in the notes because there's a thing about the moving truck being unloaded, and he's just like, none of the Floam actually takes effect, and in the meantime you're just watching videos labeled pool party, barbecue, lawn work, and sleepy time, which are Sinister reels and some of the most disturbing things I've ever seen in my entire life.
Okay. Yeah, I've never seen Sinister.
I just wanted to let the writer know that I get that reference. Speaking of which, you said Chris had some notes about the Floam video.
Yes. Chris says, this is a script got from a new writer, and while I like the stuff the person wrote, after watching the commercial, I decided it needed even more. So it said that his main contribution to the Floam commercial is all the stuff talking about the skull they briefly show in the middle of a bunch of fantastic things you can use Floam on. He ran with about 3 jokes on that alone, along with all the honest stuff where they show a bland world with no color correction in a pre-Floam world and sudden bright colors in a post-Floam world. And yes, the juvenile first sin about your mom, and that was Chris. And here you go. He said that he loved making the Sinister reference.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Good job, Chris.
Went on a little bit more to say this is also a pretty old school video in that we cut to clips from other movies to make observations. One from The Shining, another one from A Few Good Men. I'm unsure if we ever did that in CinemaSins video before, but we used to put what we know as outtakes in the main Sins body. So that's how those function here. Of the stuff that he enjoyed in the script before he made additions, he liked talking about Big Floam trying to make the clay industry look bad, and bullies that will obviously beat you up if you flaunt this stuff in public.
The only other one I had written was, let's ruin this T-Rex model with realistic bone structure and articulation and just Floam it straight to hell, because
yeah.
Why would you do that? Like, a skeleton of a dinosaur is awesome. Why would you put Floam on it? Idiot kids. Sin is always his kids. Did you have anything to note about the Floam video?
Oh, I'm missing what the lead-in was here. But the sin ends up being, if your school gymnasium looks like the waiting room at your local dentist office, because like all the kids are like cheering, like as a rally or a what do you call it, assembly or something. But like it's all done with like a really like tight close up, and it's like, but the little bit you do see in the background is just like a room. So it's. Is a bit. They attempted some clever editing, but it still wasn't enough to sell what they were trying to sell. And then the other one I really liked was the commercial says "Make costume masks," and that's when they played the video from A Few Good Men, and it just says, "Is there another kind?" Yeah,
yeah. That'll take us to Saturday's video. Then this is the resin. It is the Dark Knight. I know there was a error in uploading. We're talking about The Dark Knight this week. Chris and Jeremy wrote on this script. This was a fun one to see, especially because I talked with Jeremy while when the Batman Begins video came out. We talked a little bit about MCU stuff, but it's really hard not to love this movie, right, Daniel?
Yeah, it is. I don't know how anyone could not like this movie. I don't see it as a possibility. Yeah, it's
It's
an
just great.
amazing.
It gets so many things right, and it's more than a beat 'em up superhero movie. It really feels like a different level comic book movie. But I stand by what I said when Jeremy was on. Batman Begins is my favorite of the trilogy because specifically of the style. Like, I think they're both 10 out of 10s, but the style of shooting Batman Begins kind of like a horror movie whenever Batman's fighting is remarkably clever and really sets that movie apart. So let's see. There's I loved the very first sin is they sin however many seconds of logos. There's actually like a little bit of behind the scenes information in a video because they go on to explain, like, we had this in the original video, but because we were trying to make them so short, we wound up cutting it. But the sin here is because Chris had to assemble 8 reels of The Dark Knight, and to make sure that they were going to run smoothly with audio, he had to sit through the commercials every time, and it was like 50 seconds of commercials or whatever, or logos at the beginning. So that's the reason why the sin is there, in case you've never thought about it, or in case you were just like wondering why they did it, or that's the reason. So, which I thought was clever and fun. I think they had mentioned that on some of the shows beforehand, but
That was a really nice treat to put into that video.
well, and like out of 9 million YouTube subscribers to the CinemaSins main channel, I don't actually have access to the stats for the show. You got to think, even before there was a fan hosting it, even when it was the Sins team hosting it, how few people are listening to this podcast. So in terms of the relative scale of, again, 9.19 I think million YouTube subscribers. So it's nice to sneak in some behind the scenes information, especially on the running jokes, into the videos proper. I like that. Contender for Sin of the Week for me is Heath Ledger is attracted to a Gyllenhaal cliche. and then there's I didn't write down a lot of sins for this one, actually, but I did really like the video. They're talking about, like, Alfred's telling a war story, and then and I think it was like a while, like a little bit of time had passed, and Bruce just goes, "Hey, Alfred, how did you catch the guy?" And he said, "We burned down the forest." And the sin is, you burned down a forest to keep a guy from stealing? Yeah.
So you don't realize it, but Alfred is the worst villain of this movie.
Oh. Now I'm just trying to think of like an origin story where Poison Ivy comes after Alfred and his squad. I have one more, but I want to save it for a little bit. What were some of the stuff that you noted about this movie?
I have a few notes that Chris had sent me about this. I'd like to just go with those first. He talks about what we were talking about, that first in there. He says, one of the more memorable moments in our history was doing The Dark Knight, not just because it's one of our biggest movies of all time, but when we did it, we were still unsure about how long our videos could go. This was going to be the first video ever that had this many seconds of logos in, which we talk about in the recent video, but it got removed for time. He goes on to say, but I enjoyed doing the redo on this because it allowed me to write an enormously long sin about my personal history with this movie, from a projectionist to sinner. The hilarious thing for me, looking back on the original video, was how we wrote a sin about Batman knows who this Thomas Schiff is. And then Chris talks about the comments where mostly things like Batman knows who everyone in Arkham Asylum is. He said that it was curious that so many people had thought that Thomas Schiff was the Scarecrow, who was actually played by Cillian Murphy, which
I mean, they look
I have to go back
kind
and
of
look
similar.
at those, but kind of, but yeah. So Chris said, he said, I remember playing a bit of a whack-a-mole with those comments back in the day. one of Jeremy's highlights. It says, as Batman pretends to be dead for Joker, who is pretending he doesn't want to get arrested by Gordon, who's pretending to be dead. I'd just like to remind you that I'm pretending this makes sense. And that was actually one of my favorite scenes as well.
Oh yeah,
I had read that written down. Jeremy says, for me, I loved looking into how Lau got all the money from those gangster-run banks without anyone noticing, just so he could spring the surprise on them later to tell them he could keep it safe for them. These are details missing from the narrative. He says, also, picking apart Alfred's story about a thief in the jungle who just wanted to watch the world burn. The guy was just a thief, but they burned the whole jungle to stop him from stealing.
I had one video that I had a question about, and it was, or one sin that I had a question about, and I got an answer from Jeremy. It says, the sin is, I can't believe I let a kid in 6th grade take all my Transformers in exchange for a single valuable Beanie Baby. So I said, whose story is this? I said, real story. If so, who made that trade? Why? What was the Beanie Baby? So guys, just trust me, I'm asking the right questions here. Jeremy says the story is mostly fictional, I'm afraid. I didn't feel enormously pressured to sell my Transformers in a garage sale because I was too old for them now, in quotes. And it was only 10 or 15 years later that they were really valuable. So I took a kernel of truth and spun it into a Beanie Baby diss. And then in parentheses, some folks went bankrupt on those things. So
have some of my favorites written down here too. We can take a look at those. So there's the scene where the Joker crashes the party and Bruce Wayne runs off to get his costume on. And the sin is, it's kind of funny thinking about Bruce having to stop halfway through getting the batsuit on to put an inch of eye black around both eyes.
Uh-huh.
Because like there's a real close up and like you see that the darkness around his eyes, and it's like, yeah, he was like, everyone's in trouble, but I got to make sure I get this costume right. So that he's got his priorities. Mm-hmm. And then there is the scene where Batman's riding the Bat Pod and like he blasts through some cars, and like in that shot he drives past his car, and the shot is from the inside, and there's a bunch of kids that are like amazed to see this thing happen. And the sin is there's a parallel universe where Batman accidentally kills these kids. and it's like he didn't see what was on the other side of that car, and what was on the other side of that car was a car with a family in it. Uh-huh. And he was very close to doing some really bad stuff there. Mm-hmm. I was just thinking about this. It made me laugh just thinking about it. But I forget who the character is, but he's in the interrogation room with the Joker, and he's left alone there. And the Joker says, "Do you want to know why I use a knife?" And then then it's just, nope. And then it's like duct tapes Joker's mouth shut. The end. And it's just like how much of the Joker's plan just stops right there if that happens.
That'll do it for this week's content. So we'll move on to our new segment, Behind the Sinner.
So tell me about yourself.
We're all sinners. Every one of us.
And what happens to sinners?
Get to know each other better, you know?
See, Daddy, sinners have soul too.
The information, it's too much.
Walk away, March. Just walk away.
We're on round 2, as we've been going through the last couple episodes. So Nick asked this question. I'm asking all the writers this. Is there a previously released Sins video that you really wish you could have worked on?
I really would have liked to have worked on Cloud Atlas. Partly because there are a lot of issues that I have in that movie, but also because I really, really like that movie. Like, I know it's one of those that there are divisive opinions about, but I watched it twice in the movie theater. Like, I really enjoyed Cloud Atlas, but at the same time, I'm also very critical of it because of like how much I liked it. So sure, like I think that might have been a fun one to do if I had the opportunity.
So the next question is, what's a Sins video that you are glad you didn't have to write on, or a film that you hope you don't get scheduled on if it ever gets made?
Yeah. Midsummer. Just because I've watched that movie, and very few movies have gotten under my skin in the way that one did. I wouldn't want to spend like the amount of time with it, like that much time focused like on it, and like in the world of that it created. Yeah. I wouldn't have enjoyed that. So I'm glad I didn't do that one.
Sure. And then I have a quick game of 3 sins and a lie. So, Daniel, I have 2 options for you. So the way this will work, if you're new to the show, I have 4 sins written down from a sins video, but only 3 of them are in the video. One of them is made up by Joseph, who's been writing these down. So, I have, your options are the sins video for Draft Day or 2012.
Let's go with Draft Day.
Okay. Sins team is 0 for 2 so far, by the way. So,
Ooh.
chance to get you guys in that win column, Daniel. Here we go. Sin number 1. An entire website in 2014? And that's not a red flag? It's a PR nightmare at minimum. Sin number 2. Also, he threw 24 touchdowns in the first 5 games of his junior year and 42 touchdowns in his senior year, which is 66 touchdowns. However, he has 55 career touchdowns, which means somehow he threw negative 11 touchdowns during the last 7 games of his junior year, including against Tennessee Tech. Not only that, but for him to have a 65% completion rating, he'd need to have thrown like 36% in that same stretch. Either the person who compiled this scout report needs to be fired, or Bo Callahan is a historically bad prospect. Okay. Sin number 3. I understand why they made Ali this tough as nails executive, but she mentioned Ali. Wow. It's spelled Ali.
No worries.
Sin number 3. I understand why they made Ali this tough as nails executive, but she mentioned several times that she loves football and dedicated her whole life for it. So it's weird that she's this cold about the team getting the first pick or even the game itself, even if she's just trying to end her conversation with Coach Penn early. The salary cap is what excites her, which is arguably something that ruined the NFL. And sim number 4 is Buffalo Stadium isn't littered with dildos in this scene.
I wish that I could tell I wish I knew like if there was lead-ins to any of these or what the lead-ins would be, because that would definitely be helpful.
It would be. That's a good note.
I'm between 3 and 4, mostly because I don't know why. I don't know where that last one came from. I'm going to pick 3. I'm going to pick 3 as the not genuine one.
3 is genuine in the script. The one
it.
is sin number 2, the also, and then all the stats, and he somehow throws negative 11 touchdowns. The key is that Joseph, who is a big Tennessee fan, mentions including Tennessee Tech, I think is a key that could give it away if you are familiar with Joseph. And one final thing before we move on to Beyond the Sins, Dana, do you have any like special holiday plans? Like, did you do anything for Halloween, or like, do you have like a special thing that you do leading up to Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Just like gatherings. I had a friend threw a Halloween party over that weekend, and I went dressed up as Laszlo from What We Do in the Shadows.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite characters.
That was fun. It's a lot harder to speak in vampire teeth than I had thought, but yeah. So that was fun. But I mean, it was pretty low key. Thanksgiving is some family gatherings. Nothing too formal. I don't have to do any like traveling. It's all staying mostly local, and it'd probably be the same during Christmas. How about yourself?
I went to a college that we started celebrating Christmas at 12:01 a.m. on November 1st. And I know a lot of people are like, that's excessive. And let me tell you why it's not. Look, in the context of college, we were done with school by like December 13th. So if we waited until after Thanksgiving break to start celebrating Christmas, you get like a week and a half to celebrate Christmas with people. And I'm sorry, but Christmas deserves to be celebrated for more than a week and a half. And especially I went to a Bible college, so Christmas means something on another level for me. But even Christmas at its most pagan, I guess, would be the right way to like phrase it, the like secular way of just Santa Claus and presents and snow and in general joy and happiness deserves to be celebrated for more than a week and a half. So we would decorate. We'd spend Halloween night. We would decorate our dorms. We'd put wrapping paper on our doors, and we would be like putting fake snow on the windows and things like that. and then we would practice caroling, and at 12:01, we would go caroling on every floor in the dorms, and then we'd go caroling at the girls' dorm as well. And
oh wow,
half the campus hated us and half the campus adored us. It was an even split. And then we would be playing Christmas music like out the windows of the bathroom for most of the rest of the semester.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. That sounds cool.
Yeah, and again, like some people hate it, some people don't. Like some people are like, they're already decorating for Christmas, they already put the tree up. Like, look, we still celebrate Thanksgiving, but again, like in terms of the context of college, like Christmas deserves to be celebrated for longer. And it's just one of those things that to me now Christmas starts at. I haven't put a tree or anything, but it's mostly due to time constraints, you know, because I'm also like one of those people, like, I think me and my wife didn't even put up our tree last year because we never got around to it. And then it was like a week before Christmas and we're like, I'm not putting up a tree for a week, you know? So it's one of those things, if you're going to spend so much time decorating, like they should be up for a while. So that's my thoughts on that stuff. We see family Thanksgiving and Christmas, hers, mine, whatever we can do. I have family scattered all over the country, so it's kind of like if anybody can come, like that takes priority. Hers is all really close, so usually just spend time with her family. It's nice. Nothing necessarily special other than start celebrating Christmas early. I really like to cook, and I made sweet potatoes last year, but not just any sweet potatoes. I made them from Babish, Binging with Babish on his YouTube channel. He makes the sweet potato casserole, and he makes like this marshmallow fluff that has scotch in it. Oh, so good.
Interesting.
In the last 3 years, the place that I had been working with, I don't work there anymore. We would buy Thanksgiving meals, and then University of Iowa students could sign up to receive a meal, and we would deliver them to them. So we would go deliver whatever meal that they signed up to order, and we would send out anywhere between 30 and 100 meals every year. So I really liked doing that. I'm gonna miss not doing that this year, but
cool.
Yeah, we really like.
Cool that you miss it, but cool that you did that.
yeah, and I think I would hope that they still plan on doing it. I don't make those decisions anymore, so. But yeah, I really liked doing that. And I'm for this year for Thanksgiving. What I think I'm gonna do is another sweet potato thing, but I'm gonna make like a gnocchi with sweet potatoes instead of regular potatoes. And
my girlfriend does that all the time. The sweet potato gnocchi, it's delicious. I highly recommend it.
Oh, that's making me so happy. Yeah, so I was thinking about doing like Babish has a brown butter and sage recipe that he did for the regular. So I think I'm going to try that this year.
Absolutely.
One more question before we move on to Beyond the Sins. Daniel, is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
I don't care. Sorry. I don't know about the argument. I'm going to say no. I think that for me, all of the Die Hard movies exist outside of those sort of categorizations.
Sure. That's fair.
Whatever setting it is, every Die Hard movie exists during Die Hard season.
Which is all season long.
Yeah.
I heard an argument recently. Not recently, a couple years ago. I think it was Chris on the Sincast that firmly cemented me in. I would answer yes to the question. Okay. I'm kind of like you. I don't really care. It's arbitrary. But somebody made the argument. Like I said, I think it was Chris on the Sincast that. So if it's a Christmas movie, there has to be a reason it's set at Christmas, not just it's set at Christmas because they wanted to capitalize on Christmas box office. That doesn't really. There has to be a reason. And Die Hard has to take place on Christmas because it's the reason why Nakatomi Plaza security is so light, why there is no security on the building, why the hackers are able to get in quickly, and while all the staff are off of their guard, but they're all still in the building, especially the main people who are needed to access. So I think that argument is pretty, like, Christmas is essential to the plot of Die Hard, meaning it would make it a Christmas movie to me. But
I would argue that that doesn't necessarily make it a Christmas movie, though.
That's totally fair. Like I said, I'm kind of with you. I don't particularly care. I don't care to fight it too much. But if I have to lean one way, I will answer yes. But yeah, you're right. Die Hard season is all season long. You can watch it any time of the year. Let's move on to Beyond the Sins then.
To infinity and beyond!
Somewhere beyond my wild history.
to boldly go where no man has gone before.
What's that one thing in any area of pop culture that you're just really wanting to tell people to check out? Warn, recommend, or reca-warn?
I'm gonna reca-warn the Netflix's Love Is Blind.
Oh, nice.
I don't want to watch it ever, but I keep finding myself being roped into watching it, and then I'm also find myself suddenly like invested and interested in it, and I never wanted it ever. So stay away from it.
Now, is it your choice or is it your girlfriend roping you into watching it?
It's not my choice. It's my girlfriend's choice.
Oh, got it. Well, you say you always find yourself watching it. I'm like, are you just that bored on Netflix, or is somebody else have the remote?
No. But like they do a decent job of editing it in a way that they create heroes and villains. Because like you can't get everyone's like someone's whole like personality and fully understand them in like a short period of time, but like even like by the end of the first episode, like there's definitely like a couple or something that they're definitely pushing as like, okay, this is the couple that we want you to root for, and then this is the couple that we want you to be skeptical about. Like there's definitely a bit of I think a bit of behind the scenes magic on that. It's effective enough that. That by the end of the episode, I'm like, yeah, that guy's a dick, or like this, and like, oh, that couple, they totally deserve love, and I'm just like, now I'm invested in this, and I didn't even want to watch it.
Sure, I want to softly recommend Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I got a chance to go Thursday night to see it because I had work off, and I say softly recommend because I'm definitely not reca-warning it, but I'm certainly not warning it. I don't love the movie, but I do like it. I think it deals with Chadwick Boseman's death in a very respectful way, but it also doesn't seem to linger on it. Like, it's clear that a lot of this movie is to pay tribute to the late Chadwick Boseman, but not in a way where it almost like seems to like force it down your throat. Like, remember, like it's not anywhere like that. It was only mildly distracting, and they very quickly, like the opening scene very quickly like gets you to a point where it's like, and that's it, like that's what we're doing, like this is how we're moving forward with this character. Like it's very much abrupt, like we're not going to spend the whole movie on this or whatever. It's just like, here's the situation, now let's move forward. So there's lots of things to like about the movie, I think, and there's certainly a good number of things to gripe about, but ultimately, I really like the movie.
Cool.
I think I'll leave it at that. It's a brand new release, so I don't want to say really too much.
Yeah, I haven't gotten out to see it myself.
That'll do it for this week. Thanks, Daniel, for taking your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll do it again during the next cycle. We'll try to pick a week that you have some Sins videos that you've written on, but I think this worked out really well. I think it was good. Any places that you want to invite people to connect with you?
Not yet.
That will suffice. You can follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd at Schweitcastle. If you have feedback for the podcast that you'd like to hear, I'd love for you to send it to me or to send it to the BTS crew, whatever. BTS at CinemaSins.com or DM the CinemaSins BTS Twitter. The handle is CinemaSins BTS. Lastly, don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you're listening from, and come back next Thursday for more Behind the Sins content.
Thanks for listening. Send any feedback to bts at cinemasins.com, and be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment. Find more ways to connect by visiting cinemasins.com/BTS.
I had a professor in college that would, and it was a constitutional law class, and he would say that. He'd be like, "You're right, but you're also wrong." But I'm going to watch the next one if they make it.
It's already been renewed.
Doesn't mean it.
Fair. Discovery. Ding.
The sin is, he's obviously not in oh, let me start over. He said, "It was not me." I can tell you that. It's the theme for the show. We're just going to go through everything, and I will tell you it was not me.
It wasn't her one. It's really hard not to love this movie, right, Daniel? Of course, I ask right as you take a drink.
A bit of water, a little parched.
These article titles. Yes, that was a dildo on the field in Buffalo. Again. The original Bills Mafia dildo throwers say they have zero regrets. 100% it was worth it. These are the best article headlines ever. I'm going to end with one more article. Ready? SportsBettingDime.com says you can actually bet on a dildo being thrown on the field.